What up, guys? I just got done watching the main event at UFC 325, and now we're going to be recapping everything that just happened. Let's get down to brass tacks. I went 7 out of 10 on predictions. So I got 3 fights wrong. These 3 fights, we'll throw them up now. Take a look at those. Yeah. One on the main card, one on the prelims, one on the early prelims. Not a bad ratio. But yeah, let's get it started off with the main event. Alexander Volkanovski wins a dominant 5-round fight that made it to a decision. I predicted that this would go to a very close, very tight decision. We could see it being called a robbery for Alexander Volkanovski, but he put on a stunning performance and walks away with almost every single round. One of the judges scored at 50-45. So it's pretty amazing to see that after a year, Alexander Volkanovski, another year older, is still able to do what he did last year at an even higher level. It just goes to show what an amazing game planner he is, and how versatile he is. Only getting or not getting any of his takedowns that he shot, but still being able to take advantage of the fight on the ground. Play it slow, stay out of Lopes submissions in the 5th round when Lopes really needed either that just really needed that, rear naked choke or, any of the leg lock submissions he was going for at the end. Just excellent skill from Alexander Volkanovski all over the octagon. Doesn't get much better than that. He now ties Jose Aldo's title fight featherweight wins. And yeah, if it wasn't already true, it is most certainly now. Alexander Volkanovski is the greatest featherweight of all time. Moving on to the co-main. And before we talk about what happened, I just need to get something off my chest because this has been bothering me for a while now. I don't know why, but every time I see Dan Hooker lose a fight, especially in the fashion that he did, where just like the Armin fight, it's bloody, he's cut, he's like misshapen due to swelling. It just makes me like sick to look at. I don't know why. It literally feels like I'm watching my dad get like curb stomped for money. Like I don't know. I don't even like Dan Hooker that much, but I just get this really weird feeling when I see him lose these, really nasty, really dirty fights, and I don't know. It doesn't make me feel good. But uh, starting back at the start, my prediction was correct. Benoit Saint Denis weathers the storm that Dan Hooker was throwing out in the first round and the first half of the second round, really weathering that damage well, and yeah, he's just like I said, he was able to just take the damage better than Dan Hooker can. He didn't get cut. He didn't get rocked too hard in any situation. And when the fight did end up on the ground, he just, got his position. Dan Hooker got caught in another arm triangle. Obviously, that's what he got finished with by Armin last time. But, this time he gets caught in it. And Benoit doesn't quite have it. So he kind of switches between going for switching from position to submission, going back and forth on that until Dan Hooker ends up in that Anthony Smith turtle position, kind of just getting abused. And, the ref takes quite a long time to stop this fight. And, it's quite tragic because, like I said, it just makes me feel not good to see Dan Hooker lose. But, you know, this was an amazing performance from Benoit Saint Denis. Really showed off his versatility and his ability to work well in many sections of the octagon. And yeah, we'll. I'd love to see Benoit Saint Denis in a BMF fight this year if he wants to do that, or if he wants to, try and get into this messy title picture. I think this guy can really go wherever he wants to go because I think he's very dangerous. Going chronologically, if you're starting at the early prelims and ending at the end of the main card, this is the last fight I got incorrectly. I thought Fiziev would kind of just, be more dangerous, be stronger. Obviously, he's a little shorter, but I figured he'd be a little better at being on the front foot and closing that distance and getting around the jab of Mauricio Rufy, but it just was not the case. Mauricio Rufy caught him, threw a nice double jab and then threw an insane right cross that just caught Fiziev right on the face. And yeah, it was unfortunate, but fortunate that we got that wrong. But we saw some pretty major improvements from Mauricio Rufy. Obviously, as we can see here, Fiziev shot a takedown, and we see Mauricio Rufy get his underhooks in and really just stand up tall and get into that position that you're supposed to be in as the taller fighter against a very small guy, where you got your underhooks in and you're kind of lifting him and his toes are coming off the ground, and your opponent just has no power in his hips or in his legs to be able to take you down at that point. So we saw major improvement in takedown defense from Mauricio Rufy. I think that derives from him not being with the fighting nerds anymore and being with CKB, a more traditional gym. I think they have a lot of great grapplers there, a lot of guys that are like Mauricio Rufy, where they're traditional kickboxers and then they need to be taught that grappling element. And, there's not a lot of guys that wrestle that are his height. So I think that idea of being able to snag those underhooks and just stand up is a fantastic skill to have in the division that he's in. So yeah, amazing fight from Mauricio Rufy, and I think he did a fantastic job at really improving his takedown defense and his grappling, and even his striking looked a lot more complete on the feet. Yeah. This one was tough. I can't even lie. This one was tough to watch because both of these guys were almost completely gassed out by the third round. The last 3 minutes of this fight were both of these guys just not being able to get anything going. And, we kind of expect that from Tai Tuivasa. He's a very large heavyweight, obviously never been known for his cardio. But Taliesin Teixeira, this was his first fight to make it to the stool, make it out of the first round. But even if you've never made it that far, you're still expected to be able to go 15 minutes in a competitive fight, and neither of these guys could really do that. We saw a pretty big grappling element out of Taliesin Teixeira this fight. Maybe that was the reason why his stamina suffered so much in the later rounds. But yeah, he ducked a pretty large or pretty big Tuivasa right hand and kind of shot for a very spear-like takedown. And he got him down. He had some grappling positions. Tuivasa did decent. He had a couple guillotines that I thought he might lock up because he's just very strong. He's got big arms. Very possible to lock up a guillotine in that situation. But yeah, you know, it is tough to see that Tai Tuivasa takes another loss, and you wonder what his place is in the UFC. But worse for Taliesin Teixeira, he's moving up the rankings. It doesn't take much to be a top 10 heavyweight right now, so he could be making his way there. And at that point, you may see yourself in some fight night main events. You may see yourself in a 5-rounder. And in that situation, we have to wonder, how does he do if his opponent can't get rid of him or he can't get rid of his opponent in the first 3 rounds? If he's already getting gassed out after 3, what does a 4th and 5th round look like for him? So we'd love to see improvements in that regard for Taliesin Teixeira. But the final fight on the main card, come on, we all knew this was going to happen. We didn't know it was going to happen like this, but we knew this was going to happen. Quillan Salkeld gets it done in the first round. Another amazing first round finish for him. This time it's by submission. It was rear naked choke after he sank the hooks in, got the body lock around Jamie Malarkey and just flattened him out on the ground. But it was very interesting because he shot takedowns. We didn't quite expect that from him this fight. But it is really cool to see him show off how complete he is as a fighter. If he was just this guy who was, getting these knockouts, it's kind of tough to match him up in the rankings because there is a chance that he doesn't get like a ranked fighter that's willing to stand and bang with him, he might get a guy who wants to grapple with him. But we saw Quillen Salkeld use a beautiful inside leg trip and kind of slam Jamie Malarkey down on his back, and that clearly made him uncomfortable because he tried to stand up real quick and tried to sort of rush his way back up to the feet. And when he did that, that's when Quillen Salkeld was able to lock those legs around and flatten him out and get that choke. And it's not the highest level of jiu-jitsu we've seen in the UFC, but to see that he has the ability to grapple and he's not uncomfortable on the ground, it's pretty awesome to see, and that forebodes well for him being a well-rounded fighter. And I think he could be due for the rankings. I think there are some you know lightweight fighters outside the top 10 that he could beat, and he'll be a pretty fun guy to match up now that we know that he can take it to anyone, anywhere in the octagon, which is what we love to see. It's MMA. You got to be complete. Starting off with the last fight on the prelims, with the first fight we're going to cover, Junior Tafa versus Billy Elikana. We got this one right. I was not confident betting on a Tafa brother, but there was a moment where it looked like it wasn't going to end like that, because this knockdown from Junior Tafa is a little deceiving, because he absolutely flatlined Billy Elikana for like 2 seconds before he remembered that he wanted to stand back up. But then again, Billy Elikana also had some good moments on the feet, and that takedown got there. And kind of a common theme on these prelims are these guys try and just like what happened to Jamie Malarkey. These guys rush to get up. They stop fighting hands for a second while the guy's around their back, and those hooks get set in around the waist. And once those hooks get set in, it's barbecue chicken from there. Billy Elikana is able to get the hooks in, and then secures the choke. And we see that Junior Tuffa doesn't have the best submission defense, and I see some people saying he isn't UFC level. He deserves to be cut. He had some moments on the feet. You know, he could make his striking a little more efficient. Obviously, he has the power to knock guys down and almost send them out. So, I think there's an argument to be made that there is a place for him, but yeah, maybe he isn't, maybe he is. We'll need maybe one more fight. I'm not ready to cut him right now. I still think there's a little bit more we could see out of him. Next up, we got Cam Rouston versus Cody Brundage. This fight was really interesting to see because throughout the entire thing is Cody Brundage's corner is jawing at him, chirping at him, telling him what to do, telling him to move the feet. And at some point, even the commentators pick up on this, that he's not listening to the coaches. And you hear, I think it was either Bisping or DC saying, well, I mean, you can't blame the coach at this point. His fighter's just not listening. And, as fair as that is, it's very odd to hear that, the commentary team is so blatantly taking someone else's side. He was kind of getting whooped up to that point. He was kind of getting pieced up by Cam Rouston, who was striking better at that point. But it was very weird to see the commentary take such a opposing stance on it. But Cam Rouston gets the job done. Cody Brundage couldn't really get his footwork going, was kind of flat-footed the entire time, and just, let himself get pieced up the entire fight. And Cam Rouston actually had a pretty fun promo at the end. He's challenging any 185er that identifies as male, telling him, if you're going to come fight me in Australia, bring your passport, don't bring in any outside food, and choose how you want to be finished, or I'll choose for you. It was pretty good. It was pretty fun. He's got a fun accent. A lot of these Australian guys do. And he had an interesting haircut for this fight. But yeah, it was a pretty good fight from Cam Rouston. And we'll have to see who he gets matched up with next, because he's a pretty fun guy to watch. This is another fight that I got wrong, and this one makes my blood fucking boil. Torres Finney is capable of losing a fight because he just does not understand how a jab works. Jacob Malkoon's an inch taller, definitely has a reach advantage, but every single time that Jacob Malkoon jabbed, sometimes a jab is supposed to be something to just impose a little bit of distance. Sometimes it's a feint, sometimes it's a setup. Every single time that Jacob Malkoon threw the jab, it landed square on Torres Finney's nose. It just landed square. I don't like. It's upsetting because Torres Finney looks like this big power puncher. He's this guy who can wrestle. He just doesn't do. He didn't do either of it. He spent the entire fight just getting pieced up and just jab maxed, like jab maxed at range. And I don't understand how through the second or third round he didn't make any adjustments. He just kept letting that jab hit him square on the nose. And then it's not like he was getting hit by the jab and then immediately backing up. He would take the jab on the nose and then still wade forward and then get hit with another shot. It was just frustrating to watch. He did not do as much in the wrestling as he should have either. We saw Jacob Malkoon shoot more takedowns. And yeah, Torres Finney just, he got rid of his label as terrorist of the sport. He did not hold anybody down for 15 minutes this time. He didn't really do much of anything this fight. And it was kind of disappointing because he's an interesting built guy, interesting looking guy to watch. And you'd think, because he does throw his strikes with a lot of power and a lot of oomph behind him, but they're just not connecting every time he gets close. And it takes so much effort for him to get close. Because for him to get close, he has to get jabbed in the face 4 times. And it's just kind of frustrating to watch. But yeah, great win from Jacob Malkoon. And that's all the notes I have on this one. Fuck you, Torres Finney. Don't ever. I will never pick you again. You're on Kevin Holland watch. Jonathan Mikalev versus Oban Elliott. Just like I predicted, this fight would have some fun scrambles, and that it did. It had some interesting moments, but once again, Oban Elliott does the thing that all the guys were doing this card, and just once someone had their back, they're putting one arm on the ground, trying to stand up too quickly, and they weren't fighting the hands or trying to position themselves where the body lock is not as accessible or as easy. And it just Jonathan Mikalev locked it in, got his deal, got it done, got the hooks, and then just like that. It's a lot harder when you're now on your back and the guy's got his legs wrapped around the front of you. It's a lot harder to move and fight the hands then as he's actively trying to go for the choke. You have to do it early. You have to get ahead of it. And he just couldn't get it done. So it's unfortunate, but yeah, Jonathan Mikalev, the evil looking motherfucker, won this fight. So got that one right. I'm happy. And yeah, that's the end of the prelims. So we're gonna move on to the early prelims. We only had one fight that I predicted. I didn't talk about uh, any of these 3 fights. Aaron Tao versus Namsarai got canceled because this dude was trying to DC himself on the scale with a thing. He was supposed to make flyweight, but he accidentally made 122, so they made him pull the towel away, and he weighed in at 130. So bro shaved 8 pounds off. It was possibly the greediest weight cheat I've ever seen. So that bout got canceled. But the only fight we predicted for this was Yiza versus Con Offley, and just Yiza was not as heavy on the front foot. He didn't pressure as much as I thought he would have, and by the numbers it may seem like if you didn't see it, like, oh, how did he not? But it just was not a performance that wins you a fight. And I think there was a point deduction, which doesn't help you in any situation. So majority decision. This fight was labeled as a draw on one of the cards, but yeah, you just got to fight a clean fight and be better than that. And especially when you land all three of your takedowns, you get a knockdown. It feels like you should be more even, but rule breaks lost you a point. So yeah, that is all the fights. Just go back over to the main card. Yeah, this was a really fun fight card. It didn't have as much star power as I felt like it should have for being a numbered card in the Paramount era. But you know what? If we're gonna have cards that are very stylized, very like this one was very Australian themed. Obviously, it's in Sydney, but if you're gonna put these guys on and they're gonna do what they need to do to get these fights over with and get these finishes, I'm okay with it because this card felt pretty fun to watch all the way through, and I enjoyed this. So yeah, leave a like, comment, subscribe if you enjoyed the video. And I think we're going to be doing matchups either tomorrow or the next day. I'm going to get them out a little sooner than I did last week. But yeah, we'll be seeing who's next for Alexander Volkanovski. Maybe match up Paddy Pimblett versus Dan Hooker. That's still cooking. That's still hot. So yeah, I'll see y'all next time. I love y'all. Hope y'all also enjoyed the main event. Be good people.